A battle is looming to decide who represents you at the Texas Capitol and in Congress.
Redistricting is important because they want to have a district and representatives that have the same values, the same community, sense of community.
We dig deeper into the way voting lines will get redrawn in Texas and how the process is starting to take shape. Critical race theory banned from schools in Texas, but Governor Abbott says that's not good enough. How lawmakers are facing a new fight over what kids learn in the classroom. Plus, decisions at the Capitol bring new investment to protect Texas from hurricanes. Why the legislation got support from lawmakers who live far from the coast.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. Governor Abbott called lawmakers back for a special session earlier this month. But even before that call, work was already underway to prepare for a special session in the future, one to take on redistricting. In the first week of July, the House Redistricting Committee held 2 public hearings on the plan to redraw voting lines in Texas. In the past week, they held another hearing. Lawmakers focused on needs of people in San Antonio, El Paso, and Houston, but took testimony from people across the state. This week, we're taking a closer look at the debate to decide who represents you at the Texas Capitol and in Congress, and how the process is starting to take shape. We're speaking with 3 lawmakers on the committees overseeing the redistricting process about the plan and what could come next. We start with State Senator Jose Mendez, a Democrat from San Antonio. We asked what he was hearing from constituents.
My constituents have called and written and sent emails, and redistricting is important because they want to have a district and representatives that have the same values, the same community, sense of community. They don't want to see districts drawn where they go all the way from Austin, Texas to the Valley. Because nothing against any community, but people in the Valley have different sets of issues sometimes than people in Austin, Texas. So that's why it's critically important that we draw districts that are respectful of communities of interest. And that's what my constituents want. They want us not to gerrymander. They want to be able to have the right to elect the people that they want to elect, not have districts drawn for them that force them to have elected officials. It's important for people to come and testify when we start redistricting, that their voice be heard so that they don't get stuck with districts and gerrymandering that doesn't respect them.
We got a different perspective on redistricting from State Representative James White. He serves on the House Redistricting Committee. White represents a district in East Texas. He spoke with us about the needs of rural Texans in the redistricting process.
I am extremely proud to represent 180,000 rural Deep East Texans in Polk, Tyler, Jasper, Newton, and Hardin counties. And most of the growth in the state are in great state locales: Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas. Those are great neighbors. But at the same time, we're still growing in rural Texas, but not as fast. So our concern is we want to make sure that we have adequate representation to tell our story. Tell our story about our infrastructure, our roads, our broadband access. Tell our story about our rural schools and farming and ranching and how that is important to the state. So that is a very big concern. One thing I'm hearing consistently is, Rep, make sure we don't get drawn into some big area like Houston or Dallas. I don't think that's going to happen on the State House side, but we have to watch it and we have to protect our rural representation. We have some tools that help us. We have the county whole rule. It's a constitutional provision that says to the extent that we can, we have to respect the Voting Rights Act because that protects all Texans' access to the ballot, right? And so to the extent that you can, you want to see if whole counties, whole state house districts can be in one county. Sometimes we're not able to do that, but that's one line, I would say, of defense or tool to make sure that we maintain rural representation. Another technique, especially on the state house side, we get a little, I say, a variance. The average house district, state house district, will be about 194,300 or so. So we can go a little under that, about 5%, maybe a little over that, about 5%. So that gives us some some room to play with. So the county whole rule and the variance will help us a lot.
We also reached out to State Senator Carol Alvarado. The Houston Democrat is on the Senate Redistricting Committee. She talked about the importance of voters getting involved in the process and what's likely to happen next.
We will get on the road once we have an idea what the numbers are. We'll get that in late September. So the plan is to tour around Texas and hold as many site hearings, different regions of the state, as many as possible. People who follow government and follow the Capitol and politics, yeah, they know it's coming. There's been a lot in the news overall about the census, and they know it's part of the redistricting process. And that's why we really emphasized how important it was for people to pay attention and fill out the census form. Because look, Texas is the only state that's getting more than one congressional seat. We fell short. We could have gotten 3. We missed it by just a little under 200,000 people. But anyway, nevertheless, we know that we'll be adding congressional seats, redistricting, of course, the Congress and the both chambers in the House and the Senate, and then the State Board of Education. We always put up a good fight, and this always ends in court. And the courts have always ruled on our side and the people's side that there has been intentional gerrymandering and discrimination in the process. So we know that that's probably where we will end up again.
You heard Senator Alvarado say the census numbers are expected in late September. The expectation is that a special session to redraw districts would happen shortly after. The Texas primary is scheduled for March of next year. As lawmakers return to the Capitol, help for homeowners is on the agenda.
Some of my neighbors have done like GoFundMe's, as well as like just basic fundraisers to stay in their homes.
We'll look closer at the work toward property tax reform and how big an impact the results could have on you. Plus, the new battle over what Texas students will learn about the impact of racism on history and current events, how different perspectives are shaping the debate.